Lighting is the most important aspect when it comes to cinematography, next to your camera, of course. And today I'm going to be talking about my 3-point lighting setup that I use on almost every interview setup that I do, be it single cam or dual cam operations. I'm going to go through each individual piece and the setup and then the actual once everything's lit, talking about how I adjust the lights, how I adjust the camera, filtration, position of your subject, background lights. So let's get into it. Behind the camera today showing us everything is my wife, Jamie, here on the screen right now. So first and foremost, we have our space. We're gonna have our talent sitting here. I already have that position because I really know what I want, as you can see on this diagram that I have here on screen. And we have camera set up already. I like to come to set with my camera set up, already pretty much ready to go. We'll be changing some filtration for this shot. We're probably gonna change out our lens. This has 50 on it right now. We're probably gonna go to the 35, but we'll get into that when we get closer to it. So first and foremost, I'm gonna set up my key light. So we're gonna set up the Aputure 600D on this stand here. This is a combo stand, and you'll see in a second why they call it a combo stand. And we'll let that go all the way to the ground just to keep it nice and level. I'll tighten those up. And to show you what a combo stand is, this allows you to do a combination of things. You can also adjust legs and things like that, but this, I'm gonna set that out like that. This is just a standard pin, and we'll tighten that up, and you'll see why we'll be using that here in a second. And we'll put this all the way up against the wall, because I know that we're gonna have to use as much of this space as we possibly can. We're running the Aputure 600D, just the standard, not the Pro version, because this guy gets enough done with what it is. Pro's nice, but I don't do a lot of stuff outdoors in the rain, so not that big of a deal, honestly. It's tedious to make sure that all this is set up correctly, but even if you're just doing a demonstration, you want to make sure that everything is safe, because you're dealing with a lot of expensive stuff and things that can fall and hurt somebody on set. And you want to make sure that you don't have that happen. Next thing we're going to add on to this is the light dome. So we'll go grab our light dome. This is the Light Dome 3. I've had the first, second, and now the third iteration of this, and this is by far the easiest one to set up. You just put it on the ground, click it in place, try to get anything caught in it, and you'll hear that click. And now you can see that it's just set up, ready to go. And you can add, different types of diffusion. We're running a grid on this, and I'll go into the grid here shortly after I set this up. And now we're gonna set up our second layer of diffusion on this. So we're running the light dome, and then we're also gonna run a second layer of diffusion that'll be a silk. It'll be a one-stop silk. And you'll see that here in a second. We'll place this on here. And remember that when you're tightening these up, you want your tight end, you want the bar to be out in front, so that way it pulls it down, so it's not loosening it up as you're flopping it the other way. You want it to stay like that, where it's whatever's on the heavy end is tightening it further, so it's not loosening it up as you work. So as you can see there, if I pull down on that, it's gonna continue to tighten it instead of loosen it up. So that way, if I put something heavy at the end of this, it's not gonna make the thing fall down. It's gonna keep tightening it so it doesn't loosen up. Like so. Again, we wanna make sure that it's locking, whatever we're putting on the weighted side of it. So put that up like so, and then we'll lock that in place. Nice and snug, loosen that up. Grab the bottom part of our frame, add that in place, and then tighten that up. Give it a nice little angle. We'll reposition all this. We'll be out of frame, and we're gonna have to adjust this because this is gonna be too big as we see it right here. Because with camera in shot, 35 millimeter, this is gonna be in frame, so we'll have to make some adjustments. You put one Velcro on, so that way if it falls off the one side, it doesn't lose it. Like so. We'll cut some of this out. Just like that. And this is a art silk, 48 by 48 art silk is what they call this. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna drop this thing down a little bit more and then tilt it up so we have a proper, footprint for it so it's not so big. So we'll take and we'll drop this down like so. Once we get into the actual lighting setup, and I'll put this up on screen right now, and I'll draw on it, but you can see right here, the light on her or my key light side of the face, it's very soft, but it's also, we don't want it to spill too much on the background, so we might turn the light a little bit in a different direction, but we'll see that once we get the camera up and everything going. All right, so that is our key light setup. Next, we're gonna set up our fill, or we can set up a fill. I only brought one light with me to Seattle, the main key light, which is my 600D. I have a second one that I usually use for room fill, so I'll bounce it into the ceiling. That could be your third point of lighting. For this, I'm gonna use a bounce as well as a over-the-top little hair light that'll be the Aputure bar, and I'll show that here in a second. For this one, I'm gonna grab my C-stand. One of my C-stands, the other one will be for my audio. And for this one, I know I'm gonna need a sandbag. Always bag your lights. That one I know is low enough to the ground and it has the side on it. I know it's not going anywhere, but I would still, if I was on a job, I would definitely bag that one also. And I'm gonna grab another arm, grip head with an arm. This is the Infinity bar. This is the PB6, which is a 2-foot guy right there. This one is battery powered, but I'll probably plug it in. As you can see, I have it set to, the battery's low, 3400 Kelvin. I'm gonna show the difference in lighting and what you have to do there also, once we get to that section. This guy's got a nice little setup here. Just put that in like so. You can tighten that up. And now you have a pin that you can put in the light like so, and you can turn that any way you want. I'm gonna run it like this for now. Then we're gonna need a battery setup for this one, or sorry, not a battery. We're gonna need a plug in for this one. I'm just gonna add this as a little strainer leaf here, so that way if I pull on this cable at all, it's not gonna pull on that and have it come out. And it's not dangling too far down then if I keep this lower like this, which we won't, but. Okay, so now for our third point of light, now like I said before, you can use a couple things. I like to use another 600D, 300D Mark II, 300X, something just to fill the room with light. If you take the hood off that, or sorry, put the standard hood on there and you point it into the ceiling, you're gonna have a lot of light that spills into the whole room. And that helps out a lot when you're trying to adjust these lights. Like this room right now is gonna be dark and I'm gonna be competing with the outside light because I want the windows open just to make it a little bit more difficult. I'll close the curtains here, close the front curtains, but I'm gonna keep the back curtains open so you can see outside just to give a little bit more depth. But that is gonna be a challenge for these lights. The 600D is powerful, but it still is hard to compete against outdoor lighting, especially when you've got several sets of diffusion on it to get that really nice soft look. So we'll continue to go, but the third point of lighting in here today I'm gonna use is a bounce, and I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. So for our audio situation, I'm going to add another C-stand. So now that our mic is boomed up there, we're gonna grab our bounce here. These are super inexpensive. I highly recommend grabbing multiples of these. This one is from a company called Newer. Newer has been around for a long time. They sell a lot of stuff on Amazon, pretty inexpensive, and there's a lot of fun to do this. It's kind of cool, right? It's fun. But yeah, so this is one bounce. I like to use a bunch of these, as you can see here. Gold side, white side, and then you have, on the inside of this, you have a negative fill if you want to use negative. You also have a silver. These are for different lighting setups. And then you have a scrim. So you could take this whole thing off of this, hang it above, and maybe we'll do a lighting tutorial outside with the scrim at some point too. But today we're gonna be using a bounce because I think we're gonna have enough neg on one side with the lighting in here that we're gonna need to kind of lift the values a little bit with the bounce. So we can just lean it up against that. I like to hang them. I got this new thing right here. It's a duckbill. I love this thing. This thing's pretty neat. I think I'll use it today because I haven't used it on a set yet. I just got it. So we'll throw it up on another little tripod here. This right in there, like so. And look at that. Now we've got ourselves a nice little bounce that we can move around that's hooked up to our duckbill up top. And then we'll adjust our audio once we get camera in place. Okay, so next thing up is our camera. What is that? Oh, whoops. Okay. Come on, go lay down. Come on. Good boy. All right. Now that we have camera set, audio almost set up, and our lighting, we're almost ready to bring our talent in to start the process of figuring out where to position them. I'm going to turn on camera and get this all hooked up. Remember protocol here, SDI cable, last in, first out. I've seen a lot of people having issues with Sony products right now, with boards and cameras and batteries and all kinds of stuff. Just make sure you use the protocol correctly because that'll save you a lot of money, I think, in the future. So we'll just throw that SD cable in there now. So as you can see here, we have our shot. This is with a 50 millimeter on, which we'll see what it looks like with a 50. I might switch it back over to a 35. We're really cold, as you can see outside. So we're gonna kind of play with our lighting and everything as we go. So I'm gonna strike this, so everybody striking light. Okay, bring that light on. And now we'll go over, bring on our little light. Okay. And we've got our bounce set up also. Now at this point is where I'm going to turn off all the lights in the building that I can. So by turning off lights, I mean closing drapes. Make it a little darker so I can control the light more. I had to move everything in our house to do this today, so bear with me. Okay, and as you can see, we're still really overexposed. We're f1.2, 3200 Kelvin, 12,800 ISO. We're way out on our specs of this whole setup here. Now we'll bring this light out because I think it looks cool on camera. So what's the first thing I want to do before I do anything else? I want to get my white balance set up. I want to make sure that I am balanced for this room, for the outside, for everything. It is cold outside, dark, overcast. So we're sitting at probably that like 4,000 range. The lights I have inside, I've got a 3,200 Kelvin, and then I also have a 5,600 Kelvin, 5,500 Kelvin, 600D. So lighting with this mixed lighting setup, we're gonna wanna make sure that we really hone in what we're doing. Plus we've got filtration in. I'll show you here in a second what filtration we have in there, and that's gonna play a role on our white balance also. So let's get our white balance set up. First thing I wanna do is make sure that I have, for my white balance rather, is the proper tools to do it. The Sony white balance sucks as far as setting a manual white balance for the FX6. The A7S3, A1, A1 II, all those, they're great. FX3, they're really easy to set a white balance. This guy, not so much. So I've resulted to making sure I always carry this color checker card with me. So one side obviously is for our exposure with different colors, skin tones, greens, blues, reds, whatever they are. And the other side is a gray card, so we can white balance off of it. And then I have got this little guy. This just allows me to put this in front of the matte box and get the little square I need to hit this. Because if you don't do that, then you're gonna grab a ton of light from everywhere. So when I'm white balancing, I wanna white balance off of our key light and whatever bounce we're doing. So I'm gonna turn off up here. I'm gonna turn off my fill light or hair light, and I will grab both of these. I'm gonna jump on this side. I'm gonna throw this in my matte box, like so. Just like that. And then I'm going to hold this out in front, because we know this light's 5500, but it's always good just to check it again, just in case. I check it multiple times so it hits in the same spot. We keep hitting in 5400 Kelvin, so I'm gonna keep it at 5400 Kelvin. That's just to make sure that I'm getting it where I want it to get. See, we're working in a tight confined space, so I gotta keep ducking down and moving and stuff, but that's okay. And I'll clean all this up before we get going too. Now, when you're running two cameras, I'm doing a single camera interview right now, white balance both cameras in a manual white balance. Make sure that you balance them, because every sensor is different, every lens is different. You may have two of the same camera, two of the same lenses. They're still gonna white balance differently. So just make sure that you white balance both cameras separately whenever you're doing a scene like this. Now it's time to start working on the exposure and the position of the camera. This may seem like it's taking a long time, but I'm also trying to explain everything when I'm doing this by myself or with a team. This goes much faster. But for right now, I'm showing you how it works individually. So I'm gonna turn this light back on, like so. And the first thing I'm gonna do now, or the next thing, not the first thing, I've already done 1,000 first things, is I'm gonna come over here and work on camera. If you can come over this way. It's on highlight, we're at f1.2, 12,800. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take us out of 12,800. That looks pretty good. The background's super blown out or super blurry, which we like that cinematic look for shooting at f1.2. But you can see that this might still be kind of hot on our subject. I'm running, as far as diffusion in here, or filters in general, I'm running a polarizer, a mist filter, and then an ND filter from Element. I'll take one of those out for you so I can show you what I'm talking about here. So I've got 3 stages. This is our Element filter. I really like this brand Element filters. This is the 0.6, just a standard 4 by 5.65 filter. The bright tangerine matte box, super nice. And now you can see the difference from that to dropping it back in again. And if I wanted to keep this shot super like blown out, or a bunch of bokeh in the background at 1.2, I'd throw another stop in there. So I'm gonna blow out that, so that background is really well exposed, as you can see in the background up here. I'll just grab a shot so I can show you on screen what I'm talking about. So now that we have camera more or less set up, we're gonna bring in talent, and our talent is gonna let us really hone in on what the image is gonna look like overall. So let's bring in talent. All right, so everything's recording. We have Jamie positioned in the scene. So I got my false color up, and as you can see, we're sitting about 2 stops overexposed on her face right there. The yellow is one stop and then half stop and then into the green and 18% gray. So I'm going to take and adjust my, let's see here, my iPad here. So as you can see here, I'm going to tap on my 600D and I'm going to bring that exposure down. Now we're dropping it further until we're just seeing a little bit of that orange plus 2 stops, 1 stop overexposed. Let's drop it down just a little bit more. I mean, as you can see here, I'll drop it all the way down to 0 off, and you can see the difference of the scene all the way purple. And you can kind of see that hair light on her too. So if I just turn on the LUT, you can see it's really dark and you have that hair light just barely touching. And we're going to adjust that hair light actually a little bit here because it's kind of bright and big. So we're going to take that, bring it right over the top of her. Make sure that it's not showing up in screen. And it's kind of bright still, so we're going to bring that exposure down on that one also. So we're going to go here, and we're going to drop that exposure down. And you can see bring it down real low. Turn off the display here. So you can see it's just kind of catching her hair. And the back of that scene is kind of dark. And then we'll take our key light and we'll bring that back up again. And we'll just keep bringing that up until we see a little bit of that red again on her face. Right there. Sorry, orange is what I mean, but +2 exposure over. I just like to keep it there because that way I can adjust it a little bit, her face a little bit more in post. So that's kind of the scene. We have our key light here set up to, let's see, it's 32%. Jamie sitting in the center with a great, scene like that. And then we've got the light above her, that hair light with a bounce. And we could bring that bounce in and adjust that a little bit too. So as you see, you have a little bit of a Rembrandt going on in that little section right there on her face. If she turns this, wait, don't turn all the way. Right there, perfect. You can see that there's a little bit of that, take it back into the false color. So see, it's that triangle right there is about 1 stop to half stop overexposed. And then her face on the right-hand side where the key light is it right? Yeah, the right-hand side is going to be sitting in that orange, that +2, +1, half stop over. But yeah, so let's bring in that fill and let's see what that does to it. What? So I'm bringing in the bounce right there. And you can see it's brightening up this side of her face just a little bit. If I took it away, you can see the difference. And it's not a ton. So you can see that really brings in more light. And then if I go gold, you can see how much difference that makes bringing in gold. And if I brought in black, if I did a negative fill on her, that would definitely change the look of it also. We're going to stick with that white because I want to bring up the level of her skin on this side of her face a little bit. And then I added a light in the background over here in the corner. You can see, bring back the LUT. You can see where the lens is over here. There's a little light behind that, 3200 Kelvin, same as the back 2 lights. So the hair light, that light, and then the little touch of light in the background. And then if you want to, if we do like a full-on interview style thing real fast, I'll be standing off to the side. You can see me in the back camera, and then the front camera here. And if I ask Jamie a question, Jamie, what has this experience been like for you on this set today? You know, figuring out what my lighting setup is. What do you think of all of this? I'll get down to her level. So we have that nice catch in her eye. I'm asking you a question.
Oh.
What did you really think of this whole lighting setup? What did you think of like the experience of being in this lighting?
It's been really fun to see behind the scenes.
Yeah. And you can see in her eyes, there's that catch from the large softbox at the very top of her eye. And that kind of brings you to look into her eyes as she's talking also. So you can see, if I zoom in 3 times, you can see that catch on her eyes right there. And that kind of gives you that idea of, it's pulling you into watching her eyes, which is good to have. So that's the video. And remember, if you guys have a proper 3-point lighting setup, just the bare necessities, you can get a lot done. And you can make pretty much any interior shot look very polished and professional. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down below. I will get back to them. Let's keep this conversation going about lighting or anything to do with what I showed you today. Leave a thumbs up if you got something from this. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.